So you have with you a piece of paper, or a sheet that looks exactly like what I have here on the screen. And what I'm going to do is, just due to being able to read things clearly, as I change screens today, I'm always going to be working in the top box, but you're going to move down. You have 3 rows on your worksheet, and you're going to work one problem in each row on the sheet that you have in front of you. The first thing that I want to talk about is this word right here, though, expression. An expression is a math statement that does not have an equal sign or a solution. So when you have a math expression, I always tell kids to think of it as a sentence fragment, and that your equal sign and the answer that comes after the problem is like your punctuation. So the problem that we're going to solve is 2 plus 4, and so we're actually going to write that in a full equation over in this box that says equation, but to begin with, we're going to start looking at it as an expression. And this expression, I want you to realize that both of these values are positive. The 2 doesn't have a sign in front of it, so as mathematicians, we automatically assume it's positive. And even though this is a plus sign, there's not another sign in this problem. So we can actually go ahead and say that that plus sign is the positive sign for the number 4. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm first going to create my model, and I'm going to start with 2 yellows. Like on the yellow counters, we talked about how yellow represents the positives. And then I'm simply going to add 4 more to it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we look at our model, we now know that we actually have 6. So we can say that 2 plus 4, 2 positives plus 4 positives, gives us 6 positives. Okay. So what we're doing is we are combining those things together. On the number line, we would start at the 0. Then I'm going to move in the positive direction, which is to the right, 2 spaces. But then I have to add another 4 to it, and there are 4 positives. So I'm going to continue in the positive direction for another 4 spaces. And so we can see 2 plus 4 is 6, both by using the number line and by the models. We've now proven that that answer is 6. And let's look at another problem. Now, we talked about how we're combining these integers with like signs, meaning that the signs are the same. Okay, I'm on that top line again. You're going to move down to this second space here, and you're going to be doing your work all across in this problem. Okay, so make sure you're in the right spot. Don't try to cram everything in on one number line. And let's look at what we have here in our expression. We have a -3 minus 2. I'm going to box this negative sign with this 3 because those two things belong together. They are coupled together. They are grouped together. Now, technically, this says -3 minus 2, but that negative sign, this subtraction sign, really can also serve as our negative sign. So I can box this negative sign with this 2, because what we're really doing is we're combining a -3 and a -2. When you see a problem like this, I want you to think of this just as being a list of values. And what we're doing is we are simply combining them together. So -3 minus 2 really is the same thing as -3 plus -2. These mean the exact same thing. I'm actually going to erase this so I can write it a little smaller. So got to change to my pen. -3 plus -2. So when I build my model, I'm going to start with -3, which I need the red in order to represent the fact that it is negative. So I've got 1, 2, 3 negatives. And then I'm going to also have 2 negatives. So when I put those together, I have negative 5. You can write this problem in one of two ways. Negative 3 plus negative 2, or negative 3 minus 2 equals negative 5. Either of these are right. They mean the exact same thing. Okay? So this subtraction sign really is a negative sign that is attached to this 2. So on my number line this time, I'm going to start at 0. And my first number in this problem is a negative 3. So I'm going to start at the 0, and I'm going to move to the negative 3. I'm moving to the left because it's a negative, so I want to go in that negative direction. And then I'm adding negative 2 to it. So I end at the negative 5. One more problem that we're going to look at. I have negative 5 minus 1. There are two ways that I can write this problem when I get over here to my equation. But first I'm going to go ahead and build my model. I'm going to start with negative 5. There's my negative 5, and I'm going to then add a negative 1 to it. Remember, I'm boxing the negative sign with the 5 and the negative sign with the 1. Then I can start at the 0 and move over to the negative 5 in the negative direction on the number line, and then negative 1 with it, and I end at negative 6. And if I was to count up these models, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 negatives. So I can write my equation in two ways. It can be negative 5 minus 1 equals negative 6, or negative 5 plus negative 1 equals negative 6. Either way is correct.